Welcome back. I'm Albertson, and these are the stories folks won't talk about.
I don't really know where else to post this, but my brother disappeared last week and something about it doesn't make sense. The police are involved, but they keep saying there's no evidence of anything, and I just feel like something is being missed. My brother's name is Daniel. He's 31. He's not the type of person who just leaves, like at all. He has a routine, same job for years, same apartment, and he calls our mom almost every day. That's actually how we knew something was wrong, because he didn't call. So this happened last Thursday. He went to work like normal. We know he got there around 8 because of his badge logs. Nothing weird during the morning. One of his coworkers said they talked around 10:30, just about some project stuff, completely normal. Then around 1:45 p.m., he messaged his boss saying he didn't feel well and was going to head home early. That's not super unusual, he's done that before. There's security footage from the office parking lot and we've seen it. He walks to his car and gets in, but this is the part that's weird to me. He just sits there for like 30 seconds, not on his phone, not doing anything, just sitting. Then he leaves, and that's the last time anyone from work saw him. He never made it home. By that night, his phone was going straight to voicemail. At first, we thought he was just sick and sleeping, but by the next morning, it was obvious something was wrong. We filed a missing person report that day, and police started looking into it pretty quickly. They told us his phone last pinged around 2:15 p.m. near an intersection about 10 minutes from his apartment. And then, it just stopped. I asked them if that meant the battery died, and they said no, more like it was turned off or destroyed. 3 days later, they found his car. This part really messed me up. It was parked behind some storage place like 7 miles away. The car was locked, no damage. Nothing looked out of place except his keys were gone. There were cameras at that place, but apparently the footage is messed up, like partially corrupted or something. But they did get one clip, and this is the part I can't stop thinking about. He wasn't alone in the car. There was someone else in the passenger seat. And I don't understand how that's possible because he left work alone. So when did someone get in his car? Police think it might have happened near that intersection where his phone stopped, like maybe he pulled over. A week later, someone came forward and said they saw a guy standing near that same intersection trying to wave cars down like he needed help. And that sounds like something my brother would do. That's the worst part. He's the type of person who would stop. Police mentioned something about similar cases where someone pretends to need help and then gets into the car, and after that they didn't say much. Every time I ask what they think happened, they just say there's not enough evidence. But how is that not enough? He leaves work, someone gets in his car, his phone shuts off, his car shows up somewhere else, and then he's just gone. It doesn't feel like he ran away. Nothing in his life points to that. No money taken, no messages, nothing. It's been over a week now. No new updates, no new leads. I just keep going back to that moment when he pulled over. Because whatever happened, it started there. I don't know if this is the right place to post this, but something happened a few months ago that still doesn't sit right with me. And I haven't really told anyone the full story because I feel like it sounds paranoid. I work night shifts, so I usually get home around 3 a.m., and my routine is pretty much the same every night. I park in the same spot outside my apartment, grab my stuff, and go straight inside. My building is small, like maybe 8 units total, so you kind of recognize everyone who lives there, even if you don't really talk. This one night I got home like usual, parked, and as I was getting out of my car, I noticed another car parked a little further down. That wasn't super weird, people have guests sometimes, but the car was still running. Lights on, engine on, but no one getting out. I didn't think much of it at first, just assumed someone was about to leave, so I went inside. I remember glancing back once before I shut the door, and the car was still just sitting there. The next morning when I woke up around noon, I looked out the window and the same car was still there, same position. That's when it started to feel a little off. I went outside later that day to grab something from my car and walked past it. The engine was off now, but the car was still locked and there was no one inside. I didn't recognize it as belonging to anyone in the building. I asked one of my neighbors if they knew whose car it was, and they said no, they hadn't seen anyone new either. At that point, I figured maybe it was just someone visiting and they stayed overnight or something. But then another day passed, and it was still there. Same exact spot, no movement. That's when I started paying more attention. On the third night, I got home again around 3 a.m., and the car was still there. But this time, the lights were on again. Not the headlights, just the inside light, like someone had opened the door recently. I slowed down when I pulled in because it honestly made me uneasy. I sat in my car for a second just watching it, trying to see if anyone was inside, but I couldn't tell. The windows were slightly tinted. I didn't see any movement. Eventually, I just went inside because I didn't want to stand there like an idiot staring at a random car at 3 in the morning. The next day, I noticed something else. The driver's side door was just slightly open, not wide open, just enough that you could tell it wasn't fully shut. That definitely wasn't how it had been before. At that point, I felt like I couldn't just ignore it anymore, so I went closer. I didn't touch the door, I just looked inside from a distance. And I swear, it looked like there was stuff in the back seat. Like bags or something, but I couldn't see clearly enough to tell what it was. That's when I decided to call the non-emergency line. I told them there was a car that had been sitting outside for days and something felt off about it. They sent someone out later that afternoon. The officer checked the car, ran the plate, and after a few minutes he asked me how long it had been there. I told him at least 3 days. He didn't say much, just nodded and went back to his car. After that, a second police car showed up. Then a third. They ended up opening the vehicle, and that's when everything changed. Apparently, the car had been reported missing from a neighboring town. The person who owned it hadn't been seen in almost a week. I didn't see everything that was inside, but I overheard one of the officers say they found personal belongings, like a phone and a wallet, still in the car. No signs of a struggle, no obvious damage, just left there. What really bothered me, though, was when they asked if I had seen anyone around the car at night. I told them about the lights being on and how it looked like someone had been inside recently. They just kind of looked at each other and didn't really respond. The car was towed that evening. It's been months now, and I never heard anything else about it. No update, no follow-up. I tried looking it up online but couldn't find anything that matched exactly. I don't know if I'm overthinking it, but I still think about that night when the lights were on again, like someone had come back to it. Because if the owner was already missing, then who was there? I'm posting this because I don't really know what else to do, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting or not. About 2 weeks ago, I started noticing the same car behind me on my drive home from work. My commute is about 25 minutes, mostly residential roads, and I take pretty much the same route every day. At first, I didn't think anything of it. People take the same roads, it happens. But then it showed up again the next day, and then the next. Same car, always a few lengths behind me, never getting closer, never passing. By the fourth day, I started paying attention. I took a slightly different turn than usual just to see what would happen, and it followed. That's when it started to feel off. I didn't want to assume anything, so I tried to stay calm, but I kept watching it in my mirrors. It stayed consistent, not aggressive, just there. One day I decided not to go straight home. I drove past my street and looped around a nearby block. The car followed every turn. At that point, I knew it wasn't random. I didn't want them knowing exactly where I lived, so I kept driving and eventually pulled into a busy gas station. The car didn't pull in, it just drove past like nothing happened. The next day, it was back again. Same distance, same behavior. I slowed down a lot, almost to force it to either pass me or back off. It slowed down too. That's when it stopped feeling like a coincidence entirely. I called a friend while I was driving just so someone else knew what was happening. After a few minutes, the car suddenly turned off and disappeared. I thought that was the end of it. A few days later, I got home and checked my mailbox. There was something inside that wasn't addressed to me, just my address, no name. I opened it, and there was a single piece of paper with a printed map of my neighborhood. My street was circled. No note, no explanation. I haven't seen the car again since then, but now, every time I drive home, I'm watching my mirrors the entire time. I don't know if the two things are connected, but the timing feels too close to ignore, and I can't shake the feeling that whoever was following me already knew exactly where I lived.